attending and doing a hands-on workshop, you do not have come to a more appropriate place. I think many of you probably have seen on social media or have attended in the past an event by Al. Al is a very well-known Bitcoiner within the Ethiopian community. I think single-handedly he's really doing a lot to introduce what that means, its economic impact and its benefits. So we're extremely proud to have him here amongst us. So Carl, thank you so much for doing this. Believe it or not, it was a very coincidental meeting with Carl. I met him at breakfast and said, I think I've seen you before on social media. And I said, would you be kind enough to do a workshop? He said, you know what, even better, we'll do a hands-on workshop. He even roped in his friend to do this. So, it goes to say, if you're in a cafe and you don't know the person next to you, just say hi. All right? Just say hello. But we're very grateful for this opportunity. So I'm going to hand over to Carl. Welcome. Welcome. And everyone enjoy. This is a hands-on workshop, so feel free to, what I should say, I think we should announce maybe after you do the introduction. For those of you who are from ALX, you already should have the Wi-Fi passport. For those of you who are not, we'll announce what it is. This is meant to be a practical session, so take the most advantage of it, enjoy yourself. And then maybe at the end, I will come and say a little bit about ALX. For those of you who are not the ALX program, when you walk out, you want to have it's registered to be an ALX learner, okay? But let me not sell ALX now. Hear them out, and then if you're excited, it just means that there's more of that if you're in the ALX program, okay? That's when I'm coming to pitch.
Thank you, Mark. So, first of all, welcome to the Bitcoin workshop. Thank you so much for taking time out of your weekend and spending it with us. I know nowadays are the workshop will be done in English. We're going to start off with an introduction by me, and then Satosh, he's going to be the bulk of the presentation. And then towards the end, we're going to give away some Satoshi. It's the unit of Bitcoin. We'll be giving $5 of Bitcoin. So please have a Moon wallet or any other open source non-custodial wallet, and you can send over the amount. It's going to have to be a Bitcoin. A little louder?
A little louder. Perfect.
Yeah.
It's going to have to be a Bitcoin Lightning wallet. So Lightning wallet, it's a second layer application on top of Bitcoin, and it allows us to send smaller amounts, smaller as in less than 100, without any fees. So if you do want to receive the $5, unless you want to pay a $1.30 fee for it to transact and settle on the Bitcoin blockchain, please have the Moon wallet downloaded. So before I start, first off, thank you to ALX Ethiopia, Madaf, his entire team, as well as you, the students, for prescribing this and coming on this and taking time to learn. I'd also like to thank Hash Labs Mining. Hash Lab Mining is a mining company from the eastern part of the world, and they'll be coming into Ethiopia soon. They already have a facility that they invested in. I believe there's a hash rate existing here, and they're going to be scaling up their operations soon. Not only did they fund $1,000 to sponsor this workshop, but they have committed $5 for every machine that they sell in Ethiopia for education purposes. So what that will allow us to do is create additional workshops, create additional ways for you guys to get engaged with Bitcoin. And we're in early talks with perhaps having some sort of a competitive startup venture where you're committing your ideas and we can potentially have a prize dedicated in Bitcoin. But because that fund is there, because our sponsor Hash Labs Mining is there, it gives us the freedom to do all of this. And then last but not least, I want to thank Santosh and his wife, Asia. They are on a global trip across the world. Right now they're focusing their time in Africa. And they spent 2 months in Egypt and many weeks in Jordan, and they'll be in Ethiopia for the next week. They'll continue on to Kenya and Tanzania and so on. So we wish them the best, but thank you for spending your time with us, sharing your knowledge with us. And a few things questions. I asked a few of you guys to bring your laptops for your programmers or software engineers. You're going to want to get used to GitHub. So if you do have GitHub, log in, set it up, and start following Bitcoin Bird, Bitcoin Core, and we'll share a few other addresses with you. For those that don't have GitHub, Telegram, I'm sure you have that. We have a Bitcoin Bird group on Telegram, and so that's where I share resources, event information. Sometimes I'll share Satoshis and money, so please join that. Before I hand over the mic to Santosh, before he gives us a lovely presentation on what Bitcoin is and how you can potentially use it, I want to talk about some really recent news in Ethiopia. That's probably why you guys are here, but Bitcoin mining is coming to Ethiopia. There are several companies registered and committing capital to make this happen. A very good report on this is from hashrateindex.com. They have a report they released about 2 days ago, and they talk about QRB Labs, one of the companies interfacing with FinCEN to try to get the licensing to happen. This is very important because Ethiopia produces 5,000 megawatts of power, but only uses 3,000 megawatts of power. So 2,000 is being stranded or wasted, it dissipates before it gets transmitted to any user. So for us to use this power in an efficient way and generate dollars, right, or Bitcoin, I think is a very good solution. Ethiopia has 2 cents kilowatt power, very cheap. That's less than half the cost of the global average for Bitcoin mining. So again, a very important industry for us. And I think all of you as technologists, as software developers, as business people, I think this is interesting things for you guys to get introduced to. So again, thank you to ALX, thank you to Hash Labs Mining, thank you to Santosh and his wife Anuja, and without any further ado, I'll pass it off to Santosh.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me okay without the mic? Yes? Okay. All right. If I am too soft at any point, just put your hand up, say I need to speak up. If I'm speaking too fast, tell me I'm speaking too fast. I want to make sure that you all get the maximum value from your time because you gave that to us, and I want to make sure I'm giving you value back for the next 2 hours. In terms of the agenda, I'm going to be speaking for about 30 minutes, I hope. If you have questions, if it's quick, I'll try to address them right there and then. If it's not, I'll take a note of it, and we'll keep it till the end of the Q&A. Now, if you don't have any important meetings, I assume you're giving us time, so can you actually put your laptops down? I would really appreciate it. If your cell phones are on silent, thank you. This chat, our main purpose before we move into the workshop, I want to make sure we're all starting from the same sort of level of understanding, so when you are getting to the workshop, it has a maximum benefit to your understanding of Bitcoin. So, you're all builders here. How many of you have coded a piece of code in the last week? Put your hand up, guys. Come on, I need hands up. Okay, so there's quite a few builders. How many of you want to be entrepreneurs and build your own company? Okay, good chunk of you. Okay. So my goal and our goal today is to help you understand why you should be building on Bitcoin and how you can build financial inclusive products with it. Cal just quickly introduced himself. Shout out to Cal, ALX, and to all you wonderful people for giving us the time and giving me the opportunity. I'm Santosh. I've been studying Bitcoin for many years now, and I'm just on a journey to help spark curiosity in others so they too can start their journey. Professionally, I've spent the past decade working with organizations to help them adopt technology across supply chain, finance, and healthcare, and I decided to put that life behind and get into full-time Bitcoin earlier this year. So that's why I'm here, along with my wife, is traveling through Africa to learn more about Bitcoin and how Bitcoin can help the livelihoods of average people around the world. So to be extremely transparent, the outcome Cal and I are hoping to achieve from this discussion today is you begin your Bitcoin journey and seek to build using it. And to be even more acquainted, I'm referring to everyone in this room to build something, a product or a service using Bitcoin so that everyone in the world can use. The focus for our conversation today is going to be why should you be building on Bitcoin and using Bitcoin? As developers, you're surely going to ask, how do I do it? That's not the focus because I only have 30 minutes and Bitcoin is, I've been studying it for years and I still don't know enough. So it's a long journey. We can give you the resources needed to get you started on the how, but today's focus is the why. I want to see you put your hands up if you have a basic understanding of Bitcoin. I want it higher. Like I want your elbows to be up. Okay. So 40% of you have a basic understanding of Bitcoin. Now out of that 40%, how many of you can explain the basic understanding to the person next to you? Show of hands. I'll repeat that again. How many of you that have a basic understanding can explain Bitcoin to the person next to you? Okay, so we almost like took 10% of the original number. So now to make sure we're all on the same page, we're going to start with what Bitcoin really is. If you go to someone and ask them what is Bitcoin, if they know what Bitcoin is, you're going to get a variety of answers. If they don't know what Bitcoin is, you're going to get a variety of answers. If they have some basic understanding, you might hear it's internet money, it's digital gold. Some might say it's blockchain. If someone knows enough, they may say it's a decentralized ledger. A gentleman they said it was for decentralized finance. So you're going to hear a different type of terminology depending on who you ask. You ask Cal, he's probably going to say Bitcoin is mining because that's his focus. You ask me, Bitcoin is education. It's taught me the most more than my engineering degree did. Today's focus, though, is going to be monetary infrastructure. It's not a word or a term frequently used with Bitcoin, but I want to share this with you all, and I'm hoping it lands, so let's see how this goes today. Monetary infrastructure, what I mean by that is it's giving you the perfect building blocks to build products and services that enable the entire world to exchange value with one another in an inclusive manner. So there were a lot of words there. What I mean to say is Bitcoin allows us to move value on the internet without any permission. I don't have to ask any authority. I don't need to get any certificate. If I have the internet, I can use Bitcoin and exchange value. It's not in Ethiopia yet, but I believe in South Africa, Kenya, and Uganda, there's a solution called Machankura, where you don't need an internet and you can still send and receive Bitcoin. So it's a matter of time before that technology comes to Ethiopia. Let's start from the very beginning. Bitcoin, in its simplistic nature, is nothing physical, it's digital money. It is a ledger of transactions, meaning it is a book of record that captures when Bitcoin is created and when it's moved from one address to another. What that means is, imagine a book that just records every single transaction that happens in the Bitcoin system when it moves from one address to another. And this is all stored online, and it's software that you can download. That's Bitcoin. So when someone says they own Bitcoin, it merely means the book of records or the ledger has one line item. So there's one small line item that says there's this much Bitcoin in some address. And the person merely has access to that address in which the Bitcoin is in. Everyone with me so far? Some nods? I need some feedback, guys. If you guys don't tell me it's good, then I don't know if I'm doing good or not. You guys are good? Okay. If it's not good, put your hand up. I want to make sure you're with us in this journey, so if it's not good or something doesn't make sense, let me know. We have time. If it needs to take another 5 minutes, I'm okay. I want to make sure there aren't any confusion, because if you don't understand the basics, you won't realize why you should be building on it. So I'll ask once again, any questions? Okay. So to overview some of the properties, it's money for the internet, it's a book of records or a ledger of transactions, it's open to all. That's very important. It's open source software. As developers, you know what open source software means, but I'll explain that. It means anyone can view code, copy code, and contribute to the code. Extremely important. We live in a society where everything is censored and software isn't given out to everyone, and there's barricades in place and people control software. This is open source software. It requires energy. Energy needs to be spent to operate the Bitcoin network. So what Cal mentioned earlier on about mining being the hottest topic in Ethiopia, because energy is wasted in Ethiopia, let me repeat that. I believe, I don't want to be misquoted, there's 5,000 terawatts of energy that Ethiopia generates. Megawatts. Okay. 5 gigawatts. Okay. And only 3 gigawatts is used, meaning 2 gigawatts is wasted. So now what do you do with wasted energy? That means there's a resource that Ethiopia is producing that isn't providing any value in return. You take that energy, stick it into Bitcoin miners, you're creating value. So when people say nothing is physical, there are physical attributes that make the Bitcoin network operate. It's just the concept of Bitcoin itself is software, and you can't touch Bitcoin itself. But there's a lot of attributes and interacting parties that are physical that make Bitcoin network physical. It's scarce. Unlike gold, where we can keep digging the rest of the planet, once Elon takes us to Mars and we've got rockets to go to other asteroids, we'll start mining asteroids, we will always find more gold. The Bitcoin software is programmed to only have 21 million Bitcoin. That's what it's programmed to have. You may ask, can someone not increase it? Yes. Tomorrow, Cal can decide, I'm going to create the Bitcoin only for Ethiopia and make that 100 million. If he chooses to do that, he can do that. The question is, how many people now follow Cal's version of Bitcoin? Because Bitcoin is open source, everyone here gets to decide which version of Bitcoin you get to run. So if someone creates a version of Bitcoin that you don't like, you don't have to run that version. So when Cal introduces the Cal Ethiopia coin, you don't have to follow him if you don't believe in it. You can follow the original Bitcoin that only has a 21 million. So whenever anyone says, oh, it can be changed, yes, it can be changed. But how many people will follow that change? That's the question that people have to answer. It's been 14 years and everyone's following the original sort of idea of Bitcoin of 21 million. And for those that may be aware or may not be aware, there have been many copies of Bitcoin. There's Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin Gold, Bitcoin Diamond. Do you hear that in the news? Sorry? You heard that in the news? Okay. Recently? Okay. In what context? Okay. 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 Cryptography. Cryptography is not talked about too often, but when you talk about cryptocurrency, the reason it gets that name is because of cryptography. Cryptography is a mechanism that secures Bitcoin, and it uses the algorithm called SHA-256. It's a little technical, I'm not going to get there. Very important, there's no third party for Bitcoin. It doesn't require a middleman. Anyone here can download the Bitcoin blockchain. How many here have a laptop or a computer? I assume almost all of you have a computer or a laptop, okay. How many of you have access to the internet? Okay, almost all of you have access to the internet. With just those two things, you're able to download the Bitcoin ledger. So the book of records that I keep talking about, all of you can download it at any point. You don't need any permission. You go to, I think it's Bitcoin.org? Bitcoin Core, and you can download it. The only question is how much storage space do you have? So if you have 100 gigs, you can only store the records up to the last year and a half. If you have 500, 600 gigs available on your computer, you can download every single transaction that's happened since Bitcoin was created in 2009. So the entire size of the blockchain as of, I think, last month is roughly 550 gigabytes. So if you have a 1 terabyte hard drive, you can download the entire Bitcoin blockchain. If Bitcoin is money, it's important to compare and contrast Bitcoin with other stores of value. So when you think of stores of value, you think of gold, you think of real estate, like this building that we are in here. So I just want to talk about a few of the Bitcoin properties, or monetary properties of Bitcoin, that make it a superior form of money in our society of the internet age. So bear in mind, Bitcoin, again, is to exchange value on the internet. Bitcoin is extremely portable. When we used to barter, we had to move around cattle. Then we got gold, we had to move bars. Not easy to move around. Bitcoin ownership is proven through 12 or 24 words. It's a piece of paper, you can remember 12 words, you can go anywhere in the world and you can prove ownership of Bitcoin. Bitcoin is verifiable. Because it's a book online with all the transactions, when I send Cal a transaction, he can go to the book online and see, did he actually send it? Yeah, he sent it this time. That's true. Okay, it makes sense. So he can verify it at any point. Unlike the building here, if you want to verify the owner, the time it was created, the blueprint, the architect, you need to find the office, you need to go to the authorities. You can find the information, but it's not going to be easy to find the information for real estate, for instance. Bitcoin's fungible. Fungible is the ability of an item to be interchangeable of the same item, an item of the same type. So 2 diamonds are never fungible because they'll have different color, different carat, different cut, and so on. 2 gold coins, when melted down, are fungible. They're going to be the exact same. Bitcoin is also fungible. It's just not as fungible as gold. Gold is superior in fungibility compared to Bitcoin. Bitcoin is extremely durable. Gold is classed as millennials because it was durable and you couldn't just destroy gold. You melt it and you just get another form of gold. Because Bitcoin is, again, a book that's stored in thousands of computers around the world, you can't easily destroy it. How do you destroy Bitcoin? You just take down the internet. But if you take down the internet, our whole society is going to collapse because people can't drive, people don't know what the weather is, our money doesn't move around, flights don't go. So the common argument of what if there's no internet? We've got bigger problems, but there are ways to use Bitcoin without the internet. They're just not prominent right now. Bitcoin's in the early stages. It's like asking the internet when it was 14 years old, where's Spotify? Where's Netflix? We weren't there yet. 14 years old, we barely got email. We barely had the internet, the World Wide Web. So we have to keep that in mind when those questions arise because we are in the early stages. But it is important, it's durable because any one of you can go download the Bitcoin software and run it. So you have to now take all of your computers down and every other computer all around the world that's using this software and turn it off to cut down the Bitcoin network. Bitcoin is divisible. If you bought a building, you buy the whole building. You're not going to buy a little size, a quarter of the building or half a building. It's possible depending on the building. But Bitcoin is divisible to 100 million units. The smallest unit of Bitcoin is called Satoshi, named after the founder, Satoshi Nakamoto. So when anyone says, Bitcoin is too expensive, I can't afford Bitcoin, you can buy as little as 1 Satoshi. And 1 Satoshi is what right now, like 30 pennies. Okay, so 1 Satoshi is like, you know what, I'll look it up and I'll tell you, but it's a small amount. And most important for builders, Bitcoin is open source. You don't need permission, you don't need authority, you just need an internet connection, a computer, and you can start building on Bitcoin. To truly appreciate Bitcoin, I want to just quickly review how transactions work. Let's say I want to send Cal some money. I go to my Bitcoin wallet, it's just an app on my phone. He has his Bitcoin app on his phone. He has a receive address, I have a send, I press send, it goes to him. Now when that transaction is sent to Cal, it's broadcast to the entire network. So if all of you are keeping a copy of the Bitcoin ledger, all of you will get a copy of this transaction. So all of you are aware that someone sent someone else some amount of Bitcoin. You don't know it's me, you don't know it's Cal, but you know a transaction has been transmitted to the network. The question is it confirmed or unconfirmed? And what I mean by that is there's a queue. So the best way for me, let's just use this. Let's say this is the queue of transactions that haven't been added to the Bitcoin network or confirmed. They're all added to this pool called memory pool. And the moment that it's confirmed, it's actually etched onto the book of records. So that's the easiest way to form an analogy, is it's broadcasted publicly, anyone can keep a copy, it's non-reversible. So when I send it to Cal, when it's waiting in queue, I can go replace this transaction with something else by paying a higher fee to get it inked onto the book. But the moment it's inked onto the book, you can't change it. It's there for eternity. Even if one of you goes and decides, oh, I'm going to create my own Bitcoin and call it MeCoin, that transaction that I sent to Cal will still exist because you're now creating a copy from the existing Bitcoin ledger, which is this book of records, and creating your own book of records. So what is very important to understand is once a transaction is written on ink in this book of records, there's no changing it. How's everyone feeling? Learning about Bitcoin? Any questions? Good? Yes? Yes, it is updated. So because it's open source, at any point you can contribute, you can propose changes, and then depending on like a big enough consensus within the community, you can deploy a new version. So the last big update I believe was, I don't want to say Segway, I think Taproot. We'll continue that, but yes, it is frequently updated. You can, I mean, when you all open your laptops again, you can go to GitHub and you can look at Bitcoin Core and you can download a copy as you please and you can start tinkering with it. So getting back to our lens for today, monetary infrastructure. Why is that important as builders? It gives you an open source environment to develop products and services. So rather than having Bitcoin paywalled or requiring authority or requiring some kind of special access, it's free for all. You can do anything you want with it. Tonight, not even tonight, during the workshop, you can make a copy, you can start writing code, you can contribute, you can do whatever you want. It's open source, and because of that, it spurs innovation across the globe. You can work with developers in India, South Africa, Australia, name it. You can come together and start developing for Bitcoin. So it makes innovation very quick. Because it's decentralized, there's no single point of failure. You're developing a product or a solution built on infrastructure that's stored in thousands of computers all around the world. So because there's no single point of failure, you can easily develop knowing that there's no easy way to take down your product or service. Because it's transparent, anyone can view what exactly is going on in the Bitcoin ledger, which is extremely important in certain industries like financial services. So I've used a lot of big words, I've said a lot of things, but to really convey why you should be building, I want to share a couple of stories of the people that I've come across in my journey. What pain they're encountering, and I don't just want to give you guys problems and pain points. I'm hoping to also nudge you in the right direction for potential solutions, potential products that you can build. So the first individual that I met close to home, Salam is a graduate in Ethiopia. She is graduating at a university. I don't really need to go too deep about the monetary situation in the country, but money is broken for her. There's a bank rate, there's a black market rate that makes it very difficult. She's hoping to go abroad to do further education, hopefully even get a job. But if she wants to be a global citizen, it's very difficult to conduct and trade value without foreign currencies. So now, as someone that is going to start her career, has all these dreams and aspirations, how does she protect her savings and wealth long term? How can she become a global citizen? how can she exchange value with anyone in the world seamlessly without having too many barriers in place? So what is she going to need? She's going to need solutions to earn, save, and spend Bitcoin. So what does that mean tangibly? So imagine she gets her paycheck. What if automatically 25% or 50% of her paycheck gets converted into Bitcoin and put into a savings account? What if she goes and she has her like local businesses that she frequents, small business owners? They're struggling too. What if she's incentivized to continue going to those businesses with loyalty programs or rewards? What if she got Satoshis back every time she spent? What if she went to a store, she got some meal, the bill's 500 birr, she got 50 Satoshis back as a reward because she spent at that location? What about hardware? I know you're all software minded, but hardware is also needed. What about hardware wallets to secure her Bitcoin for the long term? These are just ideas on if I were to build any company or solution to serve her immediate needs, that's how I would approach it. The next individual that left a mark on me was a chef in Egypt. Her name's Nancy. She has a small restaurant in a seaside town called Shahab. It's on the coast of the Red Sea. She is an owner, operator. She only has one person helping her. So she is an extremely hardworking woman that is trying to make sure she provides high quality food for her patrons. In the few years that she's run this restaurant, her produce cost has tripled. So imagine going to the grocery store over a few years and what would be 1,000 Egyptian pounds, your grocery budget, all of a sudden becoming 3,000. How do you as a business owner try to maintain your business? What options does she have? So her customers are mostly locals with a mix of tourists. So if she raises her prices, tourists may come because they can afford it. What about the locals? Locals can't come to her place anymore. She can reduce the quality of her food, but that defeats the purpose of the type of environment she wants to provide her patrons. She can reduce the quantity, but she doesn't want to do that either. So what does Nancy do if she wants to be on a Bitcoin standard, and what products and services can builders create on Bitcoin to provide someone like Nancy? She's going to need solutions to accept payments very easily. So there can be point of sale solutions. Again, they can be rewards. So how does she incentivize people with Bitcoin so they can come back to her place to keep spending? What about incentivizing her customers to spend in Bitcoin? And depending on size, so maybe not for Nancy directly, but as you get larger and larger in the business where you are going to need accounting solutions as well, to be able to manage the Bitcoin revenue and so on. Next, we go to Jordan. And here I met a Bedouin named Khalid. For those who don't know Wadi Rum, if you've seen The Martian, Star Wars, Dune, or any movie that has Mars, it's likely filmed in Wadi Rum. So that's where Khalid has a camp. He operates tours, and he is roughly in business for 25 years. He had the third camp in this area 25 years ago. There's hundreds of camps in this area now. Khalid has a family of 200 people. His dad, I believe, had almost 20 children, and his family is massive. And what I learned, my wife and I spent 10 days at Khalid's camp. And what I learned very quickly with Khalid was he was a forward thinker. Even though he didn't go to a university, he didn't go to college, he didn't have higher education, he was always thinking about the future. He already had conversations about Bitcoin with other people. And what stood out with me about Khalid's mindset was always looking for the next generation and leaving behind a legacy for them. So he would always say, I want to make sure my sons, my daughters, my nieces, my nephews, I set them up for success. And I'd ask, how are you going to do that? He'll say, well, I have my camp. I want to buy more camps. I want to buy domain names. I want to buy land. I want to make sure they're okay when I'm not around. Fortunately, in the 10 days that we were with him, he used to only accept US dollar in euros because most of his clients were from Europe. He now accepts Bitcoin. So that was a big win for myself. But the question that I left after college camp was, knowing how wise he was and how future-minded and focused he was in making sure the next generation could survive without him, I knew he would be successful in just generating and building more wealth. How does he pass on this wealth to the next generation? How does he do this on the Bitcoin standard? What kind of resources, what kind of solutions, what kind of products are needed? So estate planning, wills, there's going to be a variety of ways that can be done. Right now, because Bitcoin is still in the early stages, these solutions aren't really fully there yet. In North America, there are a few solutions there. The names don't come on top of my head. I know Unchained Capital is one of them, but it's not easy. It hasn't been Spotify, it hasn't been Netflix, it hasn't been so easy. You download an app and you're good to go. Bitcoin hasn't seen that moment yet. We still need maybe a decade or two to get there. So what could that look like as solutions and services? Something tangible. So what if there is a service or a product that allows Khalid to give his nieces, his sons, an allowance in Bitcoin? It's like, here's 10,000 Satoshis. Go get candy, go get chips. What if if he builds enough wealth, what if there's a family fund? It's a service that uses the Bitcoin to invest in local businesses to raise the lives of the entire community. Now, stories are great. I hope they stick. But let's talk about the size of the prize. As builders, as entrepreneurs, at some point, even if you bootstrap, you may run out of money and you're going to be sitting in front of an investor, a VC, and they're going to ask you the big question. What is your total addressable market? What is the size of the prize? What's your revenue model? And you're going to need to know your numbers. So let's just take a sliver of the financial sector. Only digital wallets. So we're not talking about gold, we're not talking about real estate, we're not talking about money in circulation, we're not talking about money in your bank account. Only the money that moves around in digital wallets. So we're talking about the Apple Pay, Google Wallet, the WeChat, sorry, Alipay, Telebird. In just the money that's moving around in these services, globally, is 18 trillion. If you add all the other things I mentioned, the gold, the real estate, we're talking about, 400, 500 trillion. It's insane. So if we're just talking about digital wallets to keep it a sliver of the entire financial industry, if one of your services or product that you build captures just 1% of this market, you're looking at a $180 billion opportunity. That's large. And put that into perspective, Nike's market cap is 176 billion. It's less than this. That's Nike. So the opportunity in building financial products using this as infrastructure is endless. The challenge is we're just early. No one fully understands what Bitcoin is and what can be done with it. But I hope slow and steady will chip away. And I've only given you 3 stories. I've only given you one Salam, one Nancy, and one Khalid, but there's millions of these stories all around the world. I just hope that as you hopefully begin your journey, you feel some inspiration to build services or products to improve the livelihoods of these individuals all around the world. You might be thinking, wow, this guy, he sounds crazy. And if you're thinking about that, I want to step back a moment. The internet as a protocol, TCP/IP, was invented in 1970. It was an innovation from DARPA. It was a local net that became TCP/IP. And then Steve Jobs gave us the iPhone in 2007. We didn't get apps, and smartphones haven't ruled our life until 2010, 2015 onwards. It took a 40-year swing from creating some technology to it to be pervasive in our everyday life. When internet was only 15 years, I believe It was the first time I interacted with internet was in 95, dial-up. I don't know, how many of you even know what dial-up is? Okay, so for those that don't know, for those that do not know what dial-up is, your telephone wouldn't work when you use the internet. That's how it started. So if I connect to the internet, my dad would be like, all right, turn off the internet, I need to call someone. That's how it started. Where are we now? I don't have my phone on me, but our lives are ruled in that one black box. If you lose this, you're like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. That's what internet has done to our life. So it took 40 years to go from creation to mass adoption. So we're in the extreme early stages because Bitcoin is only 14 years old. If it's following the same adoption curve, we're looking at 26 more years to get to where internet is. So you all have an early mover advantage. If you start building today, you're 26 years early if you started building something on the internet as of today in comparison.